Welcome to Talking Kootenay Books. My name is Keith Powell. I'm the host. I'm talking with Gretchen Miller. Gretchen is from Kimberley, and Gretchen has just recently published a new book called Kootenay. Gretchen, it's great to have you as a guest on Talking Kootenay Books. I think you're our youngest guest. So can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, I'm 17 and I'm from Kimberley, and I've lived here for about 6.5 years, and I learned to knit about a year after we got here because my cousin and I did a paper route and we would always procrastinate going out to deliver papers, so learning to knit was one of the things we did at the time that we waited.
Okay, cool. So that's interesting because I know a lot of people that take up a hobby or whatever, but not a lot of them write about it. What was the inspiration about putting a book together about your passion?
Well, I really love, in addition to knitting, I really love math and English at school.
Yeah.
And when you're writing a knitting pattern, you use a lot of math because you're doing different sizes and stuff. Like one of my clothing patterns in there is it could be made to fit someone who's a child all the way to an adult, and so there's a lot of math involved in that, which is kind of fun. It's like solving a problem, and then I get to write about the inspiration behind the patterns and stuff in addition to actually getting to knit and create all these things. So I found a book was a great creative outlet for me because it combined everything I like.
Okay, so that's really neat that you're able to take your interest and translate it into a book. What has the reaction been to your book? It's been out now since November, I believe.
Yeah, it's been positive. It's been kind of surreal when people ask me about it. I'm like, oh yeah, that's it's still odd to think that it's a tangible thing now that I've done it because right. I've been working on it so tirelessly that to have it finished, it's pretty exciting to be able to market it. And I work in a knitting shop, so it's great to have it in there. And then when people come in and I'm working, and sometimes they'll look through and they're like, is this you in here? And
that's sort of a good feeling, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, so you've written this book about knitting, and I'm just wondering what the process was. Like, what was the inspiration behind, taking your passion and turning it into a book and then being able to tell people about that?
Well, the inspiration came to me actually in February. I was laying sick in bed, and but I've gotten injured a lot over the last few years, and I finally had a period of time where I'm like, my fingers aren't sprained or anything, and I can settle down and do a fun project. And I was kind of brainstorming of what to make next, but I was really feeling more like designing than actually maybe making a lot of things. And I thought, what about making a book? Because my dad, he is an author, so I knew he'd be able to help me with publishing and things like that. And the more I thought about it, the more I was like, oh, this is exactly what I want to do. And it was a great sort of thing because I could work with other people. Like I interviewed some local artists, and then I could also express my own side of it.
That's interesting, Gretchen. When I first met you, I believe it was at the Kimberley Makers Market.
Yeah.
And, in my mind, I was thinking you were describing your book to me, and I was thinking it as an instructional manual, a how-to. Mm-hmm. But your book is far more than that, and it's almost a metaphor for a tight-knit community. Is that true?
Yeah, for sure. Like I wanted to tell the story of Kimberley in a way that I've started teaching workshops over the last year locally, and I've just gotten to meet so many great people and discovered all these little communities, and just through knitting I've been able to connect with so many people and make so many new friends that I just thought this was a great way to show off how cool the community I live in is.
So you really showcased some residents from Kimberley?
Yeah.
Can you give us an example?
For sure. One of the ones I featured that is not knit and crochet or fiber arts related is Jeff Pugh, and he's a poet, and he was actually my creative writing teacher one year, but he writes pieces about community members from Cranbrook and Kimberley and just talks about their history locally. So I featured some of those pieces of his just so that people could get a taste for all the different people that we have.
Oh, neat.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Jeff has been a guest on Talking Kootenay Books, so we're familiar with him.
Oh, yes.
So any other mentors that you mentioned your father as well?
Yes, for sure. He, in addition, because he writes his own books and stuff, and he's also an editor and things, so I had him help me go over the book and teach me how to format books and things, because that was something I was new to, because for my book I did the photography, edited the photos, wrote the patterns, formatted the book. I wanted to have a part in everything, because I kind of I had never used a professional camera or anything before, and I wanted to learn that whole process, and so that once I move out, I'd be able to independently work on my stuff.
Right.
And so he also works on film, so he was able to help me with cameras and things, and yeah, he was a really big mentor for it. Yeah.
So you worked along with him. I know your dad has self-published a number of books, children's or young adult books. You know, how is that whole process translated into your book?
Oh, well, I know whenever he gets an idea for a book, oftentimes, because we do a lot of road trips, then kind of the next road trip that comes up after he's come up with an idea, then we'll be sitting in the van driving somewhere and just all brainstorming about stuff, and he'll be like, I had this idea, and does this work or whatever, and I liked that interactive part, so I definitely consulted a lot of people about, oh, I have this cool thing, like how about interviewing this person, or I was at a knit and crochet event in Calgary, and that's where I met one of the ladies who I featured in my book, and I just really liked the interacting, and that's what made me want to interview people for the book.
That's sort of similar to what your father does, is he looks for inspiration of ideas as well.
Yeah.
So I just want to explore the knitting side of it. My wife is a knitter.
Okay,
My
cool.
exposure to knitting is untangling
Yeah.
the wool. But it seems like a very relaxing and very fulfilling hobby, and there seems to be a resurgence in that. Are you seeing that?
Yeah, I am. I'm a part of, there's a big online community of knitters actually who are closer to my age. There's a couple who are teenagers like me, but a lot of young people in their early 20s who have taken up knitting recently, and it's really cool just in the last, because I've had Kootenay for 3 years now, and just seeing how much it's boomed online. It's cool to be able to connect with people globally in that way.
Sure. Why do you think the resurgence? Why do you think people are interested in knitting all of a sudden?
I think because for me, part of why I love knitting is being able to make my clothes, because I can make, like this sweater is made out of all,
Very nice,
thank you. It's made out of scrap yarn from
Okay.
when I make hats for markets. So I was able to make myself a piece of clothing with stuff that would otherwise get thrown away. And I think knitting helps you can appreciate more that goes into a piece of clothing, and I find I take care of my clothing more because I realize how much work could go into something and how much materials it takes and all that, and I even like wash it better and just try to preserve what I have, and it's also then an expression of myself. I can, when someone compliments me on what I'm wearing, I can be really proud because I'm like, I made that, or I designed that. And
Well, I have a personal connection to knitting. My grandfather was a sailor in the Royal Navy in England, and one of the things he had to learn was knitting.
oh, cool.
So he became a lifelong knitter, and believe it or not. And so I always sort of relate to the fact that someone takes their hands and creates something. Is that very fulfilling for you?
Yeah, it is. To finish a project, I just feel really good, because it's like sometimes I know when you're a little kid or something and you make art and you stuck like a paper towel roll and some, I don't know, toothpicks together, and you're like, here's this cool thing, but then later you're like, oh, I don't know what to do with it or whatever. But I find I just can feel a lot of purpose in what I create, and I can, every time I wear something, be reminded of that.
So if someone was to ask you about your book, how would you describe it?
I would describe it as it's like building blocks for not only learning how to knit and crochet or developing your skills, but just I talk a lot about, like I've said, using scrap yarn and just kind of looking at everything in life as an opportunity. And the word kusli, actually, it's a Norwegian word that it doesn't, there's not a direct translation into English, but a lot of people say it means like cozy or comfortable, but it's also just, it's a mindset of taking everything for as it is and trying to make something beautiful out of life and trying to use all that you're given and not like overuse things and
Right. So
yeah.
sort of tying in with that tight-knit community.
Yes, exactly. Like work.
Is that correct?
Yeah, working as a community and yeah.
Okay. So you're 17 years old, published your first book. What's the future hold for you, Gretchen?
Well, what I'm looking forward to is this May. I'm hoping to be a part of a fashion show in Kimberley. Last year there was one, and there's a couple ladies who do sewing and stuff locally and upcycle clothing. And this year they've expanded that, so I'm hoping to be a part of that and get to showcase my work there. I'm hoping to write another book too in the next year-ish.
Okay. Is it going to be about knitting?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. What more can you say about knitting?
Well, one thing I kind of want to focus on actually is like knitting and relating to like pop culture and movies and stuff, because so many people take up knitting as a as a reason to watch more television or something, which I don't. I normally listen to podcasts while I knit and stuff, but I often am inspired when I'm watching a movie, like, oh yeah, that's a cool sweater. I wonder if I could try use that technique or something, and just drawing inspiration from different patterns and stuff that I see around me, or even from books. Like one summer, I went and crocheted a bunch of characters from one of the books I was reading, because I was just imagining what they might look like and wanted to get a record of that.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'll share one more personal story with you. I've been reading a book by Scotty Bowman. He's a famous hockey coach.
Okay.
And one of the players he coached was a goalie, Jacques Plante. And he was known as being a little bit eccentric. He did all kinds of odd things. But one of the things he did was he would knit between periods. And I was trying to figure out, why would a hockey goalie knit? Well, obviously it was very calming to him, and it, you know, so there's a real audience out there for sure. Okay, so you've got another book in mind. Any idea when you might publish that, or is it just in the initial concept stage?
Yeah, I'm kind of trying to plan out a set of patterns that I could then develop, and that's kind of the first stage, is to outline that, and then from there I could figure out, like, kind of what I did with this book is when I wrote a pattern, I would think about something like maybe it focused on using scrap yarn or something, so I would try interview someone who, like one lady, if she does felting and stuff, and she incorporates like dried flowers that she will find on a walk, and because she has a dog walking business, so when she's out there she'll find different inspirations from nature and try to work that into her felting and stuff. So I wanted to kind of choose someone that, oh, this relates to this thing I was talking about, and it shows a lifestyle that could accompany something. So that will kind of come.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, we look forward to that. Congratulations, Gretchen. It's a tremendous achievement for you to put out your first book.
Thank you.
So this has been Talking Kootenay Books, and our guest today has been Gretchen Miller. She has recently published her own book called Kootenay. Thank you again, Gretchen, for being our guest. I'm Keith Powell, and I'm your host, and this is Talking Kootenay Books. Welcome to Talking Kootenay Books. My name is Keith Powell. I'm your host. And today I'm with the Chief Librarian, Ursula Brigl. Great to have you as a guest, Ursula. You know, we usually talk to authors, people that have written books, but today I wanted to sort of expand our look at publishing and at books and the importance of a community library like we have here in Cranbrook. So how long have you been the Chief Librarian?
I've been the Chief Librarian for 16 years now.
Okay, so since 2004?
Correct.
And how many people work at the library?
We have about 22 people working here at the library. Of that, about 7 are full-time and the rest are part-time.
It's a tremendous community asset. And I just wanted you to maybe tell us about how you connect with the community from your standpoint.
Oh my goodness. Well, I think first and foremost, we connect with our community through our collections, through the books that we offer. We really strive to provide a wide range of material in different formats so that people can find what they're looking for, whether they're visiting the library here or if they're using our online digital resources. And then we also look to connect to the community by offering a wide range of programs. For all ages. You know, we've got everything from our baby lap time right through offering our homebound service for people who can't make it to the library. We actually bring the books to them. And then of course we offer things like the tech training, so people needing help with getting their devices set up or they're learning how to use a computer. We help people doing job searches. And we make sure that there's a wide range of magazines and newspapers for people who just want to browse.
So it truly is a community resource then, right?
Definitely, yes.
So let's just talk a little bit about the history. How long has the library been in the community? What is some of the background?
The library has been here in Cranbrook since 1925. We had 95 members. And we were open 9 hours a week. And we were in a little room above the old post office. And then in the 1950s, we moved to a bit of a bigger space, and then we opened 5 days a week and 4 evenings, and started having magazines in addition to books. Then in the 1960s and 70s, we started doing more programming for children, really expanding children's services, and we moved into the bigger location where the Western Financial Place, the outside activity area is now.
Right, I remember that.
Yeah.
And then when did you move into this facility?
We moved here in December 2006 and officially opened our doors in January 2007 and have been here ever since.
I have to say this library has a really comfortable, warm feel to it. And the thing I like about it is the fact that it's equal opportunity for everyone. Is that something that's really important to you?
Definitely. It's really at the core of what all public libraries are about. We're about providing barrier-free access to information. And that really means welcoming everybody. You don't have to be a member to use the library. Anybody can come in, use the library for whatever purpose they want to. We have people here who are coming to study. We have a bridge club that comes once a week and does, practice.
So let's also talk about sort of the structure of the library. How is it funded? Who supports it? I know there's a Friends organization as well. Can you just sort of tell us how all that interrelates to one another?
So our library is a municipal library. So we were established by city bylaw back in 2001. And we get the bulk of our funding from the city. And they also have an agreement, service agreement in place with the regional district. So we also provide service to all the residents of Area C for free. And so the regional district also contributes to the cost. So the joint amount that the city and the regional district provide, city covers 80% of that and the regional district 20%. And that's based on population. Then the provincial government kicks in another 10% of our total budget, and that really helps us with making our collections visible online and shared with the other libraries in the province.
So what role does the Friends of the Library play?
An incredibly important role. They do a lot of fundraising to support and enhance our programs and also our collections. So they've got, for example, a book sale coming up here at the beginning of February, and that money that they raise in that book sale, they give to the library, and then we use those funds to purchase more material for the library. So it really makes a big difference. They also fund our summer student every year. So without their support, we wouldn't have the summer reading program that we have.
So what's your busiest month?
Our busiest month is generally August.
So why is that?
Because of the summer reading club. It
Okay.
is so incredibly popular. We just have people streaming in here every day. And January's are one of our other busiest months of the year.
Okay, so why January?
I think it's because it's winter in Canada.
Right.
And people are looking for things to do, maybe figure out where they want to travel to in the winter time. So they look at our collections, or just do some armchair traveling, or finding that great read, or binge watching some TV, some DVDs. I think that's a big reason why people really like coming here in the winter time.
Sure. How many books do you have on the shelves, do you believe?
We have about 70,000 items on the shelf, and so that includes our books, our DVDs, audiobooks, magazines.
Can you just sort of expand on, what else the library offers?
Certainly. Well, I've talked about the programs,
Yeah.
and I'll actually go back to our collections again, because beyond what we've got here in the library, we also have our collections online. So our ebooks and digital audiobooks, which anybody who has a library card can download and borrow just like they would a book from our library here. The nice thing there is they can do that anywhere in the world where they have an internet connection. And we also offer a range of subscription databases, so things like Ancestry or Consumer Reports or Pronunciator, which is a language learning service that normally people would have to pay for the subscription. With their library card, they can use the library subscription at no cost.
I see.
And then beyond that, we also have some interesting collections here at the library.
So give me an example.
Well, in partnership with the Cranbergen District Gardening Club, we have a seed library.
A seed library?
Yeah.
Okay.
So the way it works is that in the springtime, people come into the library and they borrow seeds from our collection, and then they go out and plant them, grow them, and then in the fall they collect some of those seeds and return them to the library.
Well, I have never heard of that. That's truly unique. I thought the fact that you lent out cake pans was pretty unique, but
Yeah, and it's great because so often, especially for special events, for kids' birthdays or something like that, people like having a nice cake pan, but you use it once and then never again. And so here at the library, you might have heard of the term sharing economy. Well, it's not a new concept for us. That's what we've always done. And so when we saw this need for offering some interesting collections like cake pans, we put the call out there, and all of the cake pans that we have in our collection were donated by people. So it's just
Interesting.
wonderful.
So let's talk about the trends in the future. What do you think the trend for this library and libraries in general, what do you think the trends are?
I think there is definitely a move to really developing more as a community learning space, a community commons, a place where people not only access information, but also create and make information, do things. So something that's been emerging is maker spaces in the libraries. And we're actually getting something like that here. We're building an idea lab. And so it's going to have a sound recording booth, a video editing station, 3D printer, digitization equipment so people can digitize all of their records, and so on. And
So that's in process right now?
yeah.
Okay.
And what we're also seeing is an ever greater trend towards supporting people at all stages of their life. So expanding the programs that we offer, doing more with technology, providing more options also for people to access materials. So we're going to be launching here at the library a self-checkout system where people can either use a self-checkout machine, or they can also use an app on their mobile device and just scan the barcode right at the shelf and check it out from there. And so then if people are in a rush, or say they have kids, the kids can keep playing and the parents can check out the items and they don't have to worry about lining up at the front desk. And it also will free up the staff to spend more time helping people.
Great.
So I think that's really a trend that you're seeing, especially in other public libraries as well as here.
Sure. Ursula, thanks for giving us a glimpse sort of behind the scenes at the Cranbrook Library. I think it's so important that people recognize this as an important community asset in all the things that you and your staff do. We appreciate that. I'm just wondering, in the future, do you see that the digital age is impacting the use of books, or how is that all playing out?
You know, what we've seen is when a new format emerges, people will use it, will explore it, and they will find a balance in their life. So what we notice is that it's not a case of people using just print or just digital. Sometimes they will use print, sometimes they will use digital formats. It really depends on what works best
Personal
for
preference,
them.
right?
Exactly.
Okay. So just before we wrap up, let's just talk about membership. Do you have to be a member to utilize the facility?
No.
Okay, so sort of elaborate on that.
Okay, so to come visit the library, to participate in our programs, to use any of our collections here in-house, to ask questions at the information desk, anybody can come in, use our space, use those services here in the library. Where you do need a library membership is if you want to borrow material or access our digital collections, use our public access computers, things like that.
Right, and that's free, right?
And that is free to all residents of Cranbrook and Area C. Yes.
Right, and it does give them access to things like borrowing from other libraries and that kind of thing as well?
Exactly, yes. And it's really great actually. With your library card, you can use your library card at any other public library in BC. You can borrow those books from them directly. So say you're in Vancouver, you need something to read, you can go to Vancouver Public Library, find that book, use your Cranbrook card, and you can take that book with you. And then you can return it anywhere in the province. So you can come back here to Cranbrook, return that book here, or you're going up to Prince George, you can return the book there, and then we'll send it back. And that's all free of charge. Or you can have books from other libraries brought straight here to our library.
Interesting. Well, thank you, Ursula. We really appreciate you being a guest on Talking Kootenay Books. You've given us a real feel for what the facility is all about and what a great service that you provide to the community. Thank you again.
Thank you very much for having me, Keith.
So our guest has been Ursula Brigl. She's the Chief Librarian here in the Cranbrook Public Library. My name is Keith Powell, and this has been Talking Kootenay Books.